Good morning. I'm very happy to be with you. And this morning we will read from the Srimad Bhagavatam, the 9th canto, chapter 4. Ambarish Maharaj offended by Durvasa Muni, text 63. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Namo Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskrityam Vamshekanaputanam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jyamudiyayat Nastabesya Pateshu Nityam Bhakta Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamasloke Bhakti Bhakti Naistike. Text 63. Okay, first Om Ajnana-Timirandasya Shansanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. 9.463. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Aham Bhakta Paradhino.
Aham Bhakta Paradhino.
Asvatantra Ivat Vija.
Asvatantra Ivat Vija.
Sadhu Virgastariddayo.
Sadhu Virgastariddayo.
Bhakter Bhakta Janapriya.
Bhakter Bhakta Janapriya.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Aham Bhakta Paradhino.
Aham Bhakta Paradhino.
Asvatantra Ivat Vija.
Ivat Vija.
Sadhu Virgastariddayo.
Sadhu Virgastariddayo.
Bhakter Bhakta Janapriya.
Bhakter Bhakta Janapriya.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Aham Bhakta Paradhino.
Aham Bhakta Paradhino.
Asvatantra Ivat Vija.
Asvatantra Ivat Vija.
Sadhu Virgastariddayo.
Sadhu Virgastariddayo.
Bhakter Bhakta Janapriya.
Bhakter Bhakta Janapriya.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Aham Bhakta Paradhino.
Aham Bhakta Paradhino. Asvatantra Ivat Vija.
Sadhu Virgastariddayo.
Sadhu Virgastariddayo. Bhakter Bhakta Janapriya.
Bhakta Paradhino.
Aham Bhakta Paradhino.
Asvatantra Ivat Vija.
Asvatantra Ivat Vija.
Sadhu Virgastariddayo.
Sadhu Virgastariddayo. Bhakter Bhakta Janapriya.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Aham Bhakta Paradhino.
Aham Bhakta Paradhino.
Asvatantra Ivat Vija.
Asvatantra Ivat Vija. Sadhu Virgastariddayo.
Bhakter Bhakta Janapriya.
Bhakter Bhakta Janapriya.
Bhakta Paradhino.
Aham Bhakta Paradhino.
Asvatantra Ivat Vija.
Asvatantra Ivat Vija.
Sadhu
Sadhu-Virga-Sahridayo
Bhakta Jana Priya
Bhakti-Bhakta Jana-Priya
Sri Bhagavan Vacha
Sri Bhagavan Vacha
Bhakta Paradhino
Aham Bhakta-Paradhino
He Ashwatantra Vivadvija
Iya Swatantra Ivatviya Sadhu-Virga-Sahridayo Bhakti-Bhakta Jana-Priya.
Good. Word for word translation. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Sri Bhagavan Vacha
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said,
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said,
Aham,
Aham,
I,
I,
Bhakta Paradina,
Bhakta Paradina,
am dependent on the will of my devotees.
am dependent on the will of my devotees.
He,
He,
indeed,
indeed,
Ashvatantra,
Ashvatantra,
I am not independent.
and not independent.
Eva,
Eva,
exactly like that.
exactly like that.
Tvicha,
Vija,
O Brahman,
O Brahman,
Sadhubi,
Sadhu,
by pure devotees,
by pure devotees,
completely free from all material desires.
completely free from all material desires.
Kasta Hridaya,
Rasa-Hridaya,
my heart is controlled.
my heart is controlled.
Bhakti,
Bhakti,
because they are my devotees.
because they are my devotees.
Bhakta Janapriya,
Bhakta Jana-Priya,
I am dependent not only on my devotee,
I am not dependent only on my devotee,
but also my devotee's devotee.
but also my devotee's devotee.
The devotee's devotee is extremely dear to me.
The devotee's devotee is extremely dear to me.
Translation and purport by H.D. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said to the Brahmana, I'm completely under control of my devotees. Indeed, I am not at all independent. Because my devotees are completely devoid of material desires, I sit only within the core of their hearts. What to speak of my devotee? Even those who are devotees of my devotees are very dear to me. Please repeat. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said
to the Brahman, I'm completely under control of my devotees.
I am completely under the control of my devotees.
Indeed, I'm not at all independent.
Indeed, I am not at all independent.
Because my devotees are completely devoid of all material desires.
Because my devotees are completely devoid of material desires.
I sit only within the core of their hearts.
I stay only within the doors of their hearts.
What to speak of my devotee?
What do you know of my devotees?
Even those who are devotees of my devotees
Even those who are devotees of my devotees
are very dear to me.
are very dear to me.
On the purport. All the great stalwart personalities in the universe, including Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, are fully under the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead is fully under the control of his devotee. Why is this? Because the devotee is Anya Bilasta Sunya. In other words, he has no material desires in his heart. His only desire is to think always of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and how to serve him best. Because of this transcendental qualification, the Supreme Lord is extremely favorable to the devotees. Indeed, not only the devotees, but also the devotees of the devotees. Srila Narottam Das Thakur says, Shadya Vaishnava Seva Nishtach Payit Shekeva. Without being a devotee of a devotee, one cannot be released from material entanglement. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu identified himself as Gopi Bhakta Padu Kamalar Das Anudas Anudas. Thus, Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 13, text 18. Thus he instructed us to become not directly servants of Krishna, but the servants of the servant of Krishna. Devotees like Brahma, Narada, Vyasadeva, and Sukadev Goswami are directly servants of Krishna. And one becomes a servant of Narada, Vyasadeva, and Sukadev, like the 6 Goswamis, is still more devoted. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasadam. If one very sincerely serves the spiritual master, Krishna certainly becomes favorable to such a devotee. Following the instructions of the devotee is more valuable than following the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly. I will repeat the verse once again. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Am Bhakta Praradinu Iyasvatantra Ivajviyat Vija Sadhubir Yastaridayo Bhakta Jana Priyaha. Supreme Personality of Godhead said to the Brahman, I am completely under the control of my devotees. Indeed, I am not at all independent, because my devotees are completely devoid of material desires. I sit only within the core of their hearts. What to speak of my devotee? Even those who are devotees of my devotees are very dear. Om Ajnana Timandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakramiritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Chichetanyamanobhistam Savitam Yena Bhutale Shram Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapanantikam Vandeham Shriyodapadakam Shigom Vaishnavamsa Shirupam Sagachatam Sakanaragnatam Pitam Tam Sadivam Satvaitam Savdutam Pajana Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Radha Krishna Padam Sakalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Sa He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dino Bandhu Jatpate Gopisa Gopa Kanta Kanta Nisvete Kakanchana Kalanki Ate Pinda Vineshwari Krishabhanu Sri Devi Pranamama Hari Priye Panka Kalpa Vyasa Kripatindu Devasa Padnam Bhavanabhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namah Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Dada Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pacharani Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paskajai Desata Srila Prabhupada Ki. So this verse and discusses a very important theological theme that is God, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is he independent, or is there some lack of independence? So it is said here, Krishna comes completely under the control of his devotees. Lord Krishna, as Damodar, is completely under the control of Mother Yasoda by her love. There are so many examples but He's under control of his devotees who are completely devoid of material desires. That is the condition. So this verse gives us an insight on the dynamics of love, of relationships. So this is very special for the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Srimad Bhagavatam focuses on these loving relationships. And nothing can compare to the Srimad Bhagavatam in this regard. Of course, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he spent in the Chaitanya Charitamrita an entire chapter to explain the difference between lust and love. It starts from verse 108 till the end of the chapter. So many verses just to explain the difference between lust and love. I went a few times to this chapter, hearing it again and again, and what struck me is that he said, unless one is in Suddha Sattva, pure Krishna consciousness. Lord Shiva says also, Krishna consciousness is pure consciousness. Consciousness without any covering, he says. And this is called Visuddha Sattva. So one with a complete pure heart, that he can know what is love. The Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami said, unless one is in Visuddha Sattva, transcendental consciousness, one cannot even begin to understand his loving relationships between Radha and Krishna. So that I found it looks like extreme, that we can not understand nothing of the loving affairs between Radha, Krishna, the gopis, and Krishna, unless we are in pure transcendental consciousness. But then that's one side. But on the other side, what does bhakti mean? Bhakti means to give our love to Krishna. I remember always this simple explanation given by Bhakti Charamaj. Someone asked him, what does it mean chanting Hare Krishna? And he gave the simple answer, chanting Hare Krishna means saying to Krishna, I love you. Very simple. But that love is in us because we are part and parcels of Krishna. And it is this love directed toward Krishna that can only give us the fulfillment that we are seeking. But we see in the practice, we want to give our affection to Krishna. We want to give our affection, put our affection in the chanting. But our mind intervenes many times. Usually the mind wants to do something else and the thoughts are not directed toward Krishna. Because the illusory energy is so strong that it takes our mind away. But this verse today gives us also great hope that it says that the devotees are very dear to Krishna, but even the devotees of the devotees of Krishna, devotees of devotees are even more dear. And Prabhupada says in the purport, Lord, he speaks about Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. They are under full control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead is under control of his devotees, those who are Anya Bilasta Sunyam, pure. So Krishna is favorable to his devotees, but is even more favorable to those who are the devotee of the devotee of the devotees, and so on. And he quotes Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, said, Gopi Bhakta Kamala Das and Das and Das. Lord Chaitanya said, I'm the servant of the servant of the servant of the lover of the gopis. Gopi Bhakta Kamala. So it means we cannot directly serve Krishna because Krishna is completely pure and we are impure. But when we become the servant of the servant of the servant, we are serving Krishna through these devotees, and still we can serve Krishna. Therefore, this is an important principle, that although we may be impure, but if we serve and the spiritual master, we follow his instructions very nicely, and we see ourselves as an assistant of our spiritual master, who sees himself as an assistant of his spiritual master and so on, we can serve Krishna in that spirit. And by serving, because this is an essential point in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, Tesham satyuktam bhatsam pitavokam dadami buddhyogam tam yena mam upayantite. If one serves me with a little love, then Krishna gives us Buddha Yoga, realization through the heart. Tesham evanakampatam ammahyama chamtama nasachamatma bhavastu karnatipana. Krishna then comes, is in our heart, but with the jnana dipana, with the torchlight of knowledge, he removes our covering and we become purified. But the question may arise, Priti Purvakam, a little love. That how, if we don't know according to Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, if we don't know what transcendental love is, how can we give love? It's difficult to understand. But at the same time, if we are the servant of the servant of the servant, means we follow this principle of Tat Vinipana Partner Pariprasna Sevya Upadekshante Teganam Ganina Tat Vadakshina. We serve the spiritual master, we inquire from him humbly. Then Krishna, he accepts that as a little love, and he purifies our heart. And that's the system which is very important to understand, that in devotional service we see ourselves always as the assistant of our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, and all the devotees. And that's where all the mercy comes down, because that makes us very dear to Krishna. That if we follow this principle, so this is because it says devotees like Brahma, Narada, Vyas, and Sukadeva Goswami are directly servants of Krishna. But when one becomes a servant of Narada, Vyasadeva, Sukadev, and the 6 Goswamis, one is even still more devoted it is said. So how powerful is this principle here, which is explained by Prabhupada in the purport. And it gives us hope that, because in this verse, this is Krishna speaking, he says that even the devotees of my devotees are very dear. So what makes us dear to Krishna? If we become the devotee of his devotee. But yes, Krishna speaks here about loving relationships. That it says in Bhagavad Gita, Samam Sarvabhutasya Namit Veshis Stinapriya. I'm equal to everyone, Krishna says. But then he says, one who is my devotee, I'm a friend to him, and he's a friend to me. And we will see a few verses later, this Krishna, because Krishna speaks here about, he gives us very confidential knowledge from his heart. He gives an insight about his relationship with his devotees, which is quite confidential. We are in the 9th canto, and a few verses later he will say, yes, okay, my devotee always think of me in his heart, and I always think of my pure devotee in my heart. My pure devotee is only know, it does not know anything else on me, and I do not know anything else on my devotee. That's quite an intimate relationship. So, and that's one of the important goals in our devotional service is devotional service means living in a relationship with Krishna. Always. I remember Kanambakana Maharaj gave a lecture to the sannyas candidates about sannyas life. And he said, sannyas means living in a constant relationship with Krishna. But that's not only for sannyas. Everyone does a goal of bhakti for all of us to live constantly in a relationship with Krishna. And this process of devotional service is meant to make that relationship. We have 9 processes: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Pada, Sevanam, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Pada, Sevanam, Archanam, Varnam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmani, Vedanam. Like we have Vandanam, prayers, so many prayers. It's important we pray to Krishna in our heart that helps to establish our relationship. Sometimes we have ups and downs in our life and difficulties that come, and these are all opportunities. Queen Kunti saw these as opportunities to take shelter of Krishna. But of course, we have to go beyond that. We have always to take shelter of Krishna. Also in good times, because good times and bad times in this world is for the body. And Krishna says we should become equal to that, but we should focus on our relationship with Krishna. This is the life of devotees. It's very difficult from the life of people in this world that they don't know what transcendental love is. For them, money first, love comes later. That and this is the drama of love in this world. That sometimes the so-called relationships are increasing, sometimes they are lukewarm, sometimes they turn into hate. But we see so many relationships in this world, but we are tiny parts of Krishna. So it means as tiny parts with Krishna, we have also a relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Of course, we develop also special relationships with the devotees. And that is also mentioned in this verse. We become the devotee of a devotee. We become the servant of the devotee. And this selfless service to the spiritual master, selfless service to the devotees gives great satisfaction to the heart. I remember Prabhupada was with his American disciple somewhere in India, and one of his godbrothers was cooking for the disciples of Prabhupada. Was cooking for Krishna, but was offering prasad to all the disciples of Srila Prabhupada who were there. And Prabhupada said, look, is preparing, is cooking with affection for Krishna, with love for Krishna. That he's offering it himself. And then he's serving all the devotees. And he forget about himself. And he's more enjoying than eating the prasad himself. It's more enjoying just by service. And we see that makes relationships with devotees, between devotees, so special. We have that principle here, Anya Vilasita Sunyam, that means acting without material motivation, just to please Krishna. So it means that there is, because Prahlad Maharaj speaks also about those who approach Krishna as a varnik with the mentality of a merchant, just seeing God as their order supplier. That we find also many times in this world, that people will worship God, but they pray for so many things, for the body, for their family, and so on. But yes, I remember my first meeting with devotees. I was a chartered accountant, and in 92 I went for the first time to the temple. I wanted to meet the devotees. And the devotee opened the door, and the first thing I remarked was that this devotee was taking time to hear what I had to say. He was full of attention. That's a great quality. Most people are not much interested to hear what you have to say. That was the first, and then the devotee was with love. If he was serving me sweets. If someone serves you such sweets with love, you feel this person cares about me. But then I was thinking, because my heart was impure. I hope after 35 years it's going a little better. But 35 years ago, that I was thinking, they are so nice with me, so kind. But what do they want from me? But I could not find any motivation to exploit me. And that makes the relations nice. That it's just a service attitude. giving your love, because giving your love, because Krishna is in the heart of every living entity. In the 80s, I was a head of administration in a hospital, the geriatric department, very old people there. And that hospital belonged to the Cistercienser sisters. It's a Catholic order. It are nuns of the Benedict order, which is very old, which has been started in the 12th century. And some of these nuns, they were serving in the hospital. And I asked one of the sisters, it was Sister Sabine, I asked her, how do you see your spiritual practice in your work? Well, she said, we see in everyone Jesus Christ, and it's like we are serving Jesus Christ. But I found it quite interesting. At the same time, I was reading Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, and I was thinking, yes, because they see Jesus Christ as God. So they see God in the heart of everyone. And they were serving with affection, with love. And that is always something what I remember. And that in many traditions, especially some of the Christian traditions certainly, they have also this vision. But in our tradition, we say the servant of the servant of the servant. We don't serve God directly. And that makes it very potent. And that because when we speak about that Lord Krishna is under the control of his pure devotees, that we know is under control of Srimati Radharani, but also disciples are under the control of the spiritual master, and that's a relationship of love. That the spiritual master really sees the disciple. He sees the disciple as being sent by his spiritual master, just for him to do this service to his spiritual master. Interesting that is what Srila Prabhupada said. He said, all you young girls and boys have been sent by my spiritual master. Yes, right.
Is it okay to ask questions?
Yeah.
I loved everything you said. I just have a question here. Maybe you can clarify. We hear in the Bhagavad Gita in several places that Krishna's in the core of everyone's heart, right? So many. And in this verse, it seems to contradict it a little bit. It says, I said only in the chorus of their hearts, referring to the devotees. So this is an apparent contradiction. Would you like to help us navigate?
That's a very nice question. So Krishna says that so I'm sitting in the heart of every living entity. He says that many times in Bhagavad Gita, that Sarvashyam Vedishan Vistamata Smitikanama Pams 1515, 1861, Isvarasarvabhutam Rechasayunatistati. I'm sitting in the heart of everyone. But he says in this verse at the end of the 9th chapter, when I'm sitting in the, but for my devotee, I'm a friend to him, he's a friend to me, special relationship. So in the first part, Krishna is sitting in the heart as Paramatma, official Paramatma, and he gives it gives all living entities the reactions of their previous actions. It's just like a judge that and he gives a judge gives he sees what happened and he has his judgment according to what happened. It just and like that it's official. Of course, it's not just official, but as Paramatma, like yeah. I'm soon going to the second part, but I want to clarify the first part as Krishna's Paramatma. It gives us the reactions to our previous actions, and that. But not only that, sometimes when we do nonsense in our life, we feel guilty afterwards, especially devotees. We see that in the first canto of the Bhagavatam, there we have Maharaj Parikshit that behaving not so nicely with Shamika Rishi, offering a garland of a snake, and then, but after that he feels very bad. And that is also Paramatma who says in our heart, that's not so good. Or when a mother serves the child without asking something in return, it gives a good feeling. That's also Paramatma who gives it. But it's equal. But for devotees, it's different. And that's explained in 3.9.11, I think, Bhagavatam Tvam Bhakti Yoga Parivavina Saroja. It said, but for my devotees who are serving me with love within the heart, I take seat there in the heart of my pure devotees in the form they feel attracted to me. So for devotees, it's different. For devotees, he becomes Krishna, is two-armed form mostly for the devotees. That's the form we feel attracted to. So that's different. There, it's the Bhagavan feature which comes into Paramatma. I mean, it's form that we feel attracted to him as Bhagavan. He appears in the heart. And so there is not official that as in that form, it sits only in the core of the heart of his pure devotees. So that's very special. Because devotees have Bhagavan realization, which includes Paramatma and Brahman realization. So Krishna appears in our heart in the form we feel attracted to. And it is like, I remember in Radhadesh as a brahmacharya, I did for the first time in 10 years, I was in Radhadesh. Every morning, Mangalakti before Radha Gopinath. It's a little different than Shirochora Gopinath. A little different form. But after that, that gives an impression in your mind, in your heart. And when I think of Krishna, I think of that form, which is most dear to me. that, and I feel Krishna in the heart as in that form sometimes. So there is a difference which is difficult to understand, but these are the difference that I see, Maharaj. Does that help?
Very, very, very much.
Okay,
It's good.
thank you.
Can I ask a little bit?
Yeah.
So you talk about the relationship between the spiritual master and the disciple. And maybe I'm just speaking about myself, but the heart is so hardened that even though sometimes there are times where you feel love and inspiration and reference for a spiritual master, when you follow your vows or you do your duty to your spiritual master out of that love. But then there are other days where it's just out of duty because you have made that vow of duty. So how do you convert this sense of just duty to how do you convert that into a factor of motivation from just being duty bound to being bound by love and serving the spiritual master of the family?
Well, I remember Hari Sari Prabhu, I think he was massaging Prabhupada. And he said to Prabhupada, I really don't love for, I really don't feel love for you. Anyway, I was speaking from his heart. Prabhupada didn't say anything. But then later that morning, he went back to Hari Sari and said, how can you say that you are not loving me? You are serving so nicely. So service is a sign of love. And that feeling in the beginning, 26 Second Avenue, Prabhupada instructed, it was a gradual process, telling them the disciples should, the first time the disciple sees a spiritual master, one should bow down before the spiritual master. And Brahmananda said, but Prabhupada, I don't feel like bowing down. And Prabhupada's reply was, just do it. The feeling will come. I think we have to be a little patient. From my experience in Bhakti Charamrita, and it's difficult to speak about that, but I could only love him because he loved his disciples, he loved everyone so much. And when you feel that love, you want to reciprocate. And it's factually a relationship of love, because love, if you love something, you want the best for that person. And the spiritual master wants the best, wants you to return to the spiritual world. That's the greatest wish that someone can have for you. So his motivation is 100% based on love. And that's not from this world. It's very special. And I hope this helps. Good. Yes.
Maharaj, you mentioned that for the first time you went to the temple, you were impressed with the devotee's attention. He was giving attention. So being attentive is important. You also mentioned when we chant, our mind often wanders here and there. So I want to understand one of the tips that you can give for attentive chanting.
Yeah, what is important for attentive chanting is especially considering the advice of Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. In 6.5, he said, with the mind you can degrade yourself, can uplift yourself. The mind can be your friend or your enemy. The next verse says, the mind is your friend when it's controlled. The mind is your enemy when it's uncontrolled. And then further in Bhagavad Gita, in the same chapter, Krishna says, yes, or Arjuna is saying, this mind is obnoxious, very difficult to control. It's like controlling the wind, it's very difficult. Then Krishna replies, yes, we can control the mind by detachment. And he said, and suitable practice. The suitable practice for this age is the chanting of the holy name. So the chanting of the holy name is the means to control the mind. But we must do our best. Krishna says, when the mind wanders, you must always bring it back. But if you chant, you get spiritual power, not to identify with the mind. And we must learn to observe the mind. If we follow the mind, we get in trouble. That it's not that we must say we neglect the mind completely. No, you must see the mind through your intelligence. And to your intelligence, decide based on transcendental knowledge what to accept, what to reject. That we cannot say extreme, I neglect the mind. That's not going to work. That we can also not go to the other extreme, accept whatever the mind. No, intelligence must be there to discriminate based on the scriptures, and that we must do every moment. But more important to control the mind is because it can become a whole fight. That your mind wanders, you bring it back, and it is like a fight. But instead of it going into that fight, we have no transcendental love, but we have affection. We can put all your affection for Krishna in the chanting, and you will see it will become easier to control the mind. Another advice is always engage your mind in Krishna's service. The mind is an instrument to be used. Don't let the instrument use you. This is all philosophy, but it took me many years to get to that and start to begin really to control them. So it's not an easy thing, but as you progress, the mind becomes purified and becomes easier. So this also follow the four regulative principles. If we don't follow, then we cannot control the mind. That's a prerequisite. Thank you very much. Again, Hare Krishna, Jai Prabhupada.